Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Well, good day, everyone. It's Phil Tarrant here. I'm the host of the Smart Property Investment Show. How you going? Thanks for joining us. Hope you're enjoying the Christmas, New Year period. I hopefully will spend some time relaxing with family, and that's always the idea. But I always like to use this period to think about property. I'm always thinking about property, but this time of the year is a good time to reflect and recharge and have a bit of a chat today. Back to the Future. I got someone back in the studio who we haven't seen for well over a year and a half. He came in March 2016. A guy by the name of Jeremy Iannuzzelli, and I get that right?
You did, mate. You did.
Good. And he was a reasonably popular podcast guest. The story back then, go and check it out. Adam, when was it? 16th of March 2016, or look for it on your iTunes, tune into it. At that point in time, he was a young investor under 30. He was on a modest income and he had 9 properties to his name. And we had a chat about how a young, driven, passionate property investor can make such a good head start in property, irrespective of reasonably sort of modest salary, but fortunate enough to be teamed with someone who, a few mentors, I guess, who got him into property, including his dad and my accountant, a guy called Munzrul Khan, who, if you listen to the show a lot, you hear me talk about him. But Jeremy now works as a partner within that business with Munzrul, called Keshab, and I've pulled him back in the studio to see what he's been doing for the last year and a half. Has it been a good year and a half?
Mate, it's definitely been a busy year and a half. Lots of things have happened, and properties, and getting engaged, and moving into a partnership, obviously with inside an accounting firm.
So are you still on a modest income?
The income definitely has gone up. What people don't know is with the income going up, the workload's increased about 10 times as well. Yeah. So I suppose, you've got to work hard for your money, but that increase has taken me to another level and helped me get the property portfolio from 9 closer to now 15, with a couple of things coming off building. So it's been a really, really busy year and a half, life and investing as well.
Yeah, and relationships, it's all happening.
Relationships, it's all happening. Getting married in April to a beautiful young lady, and
a good Italian girl.
Oh, she's Australian, which is good. Mum and Dad love her, and the grandparents absolutely adore her as well. And she's a hard worker. She's a school teacher, and she's another tax asset to have as well.
You go. Always thinking like an accountant. So you rocked up today in a fancy muscle car. So you're not struggling too much now with the dollars and cents, but you've gone from 9 to 15 properties in a year and a half. So
Correct.
You're not messing around either. Let's have a chat about that growth in your portfolio today, and just also, you're an accountant, so you do business stuff and you have SME clients and all that sort of stuff. But I know you also, like Munzrul, service a lot of property investors. So I'll just get some ideas from you, or some observations around how you see the market, how people are sort of struggling, or how they're going with securing debt at the moment, and just some general stuff like that. So
it's been a big topic of conversation lately, and I've been reviewing a lot of people's finances. I've always seemed to notice that during times of huge equity increases, I see some people live a little bit above their means. Yes, I went and bought a new car, and I saved my pennies and paid cash for it, so there was no loan.
Cash, did you?
I paid cash for it. I don't believe in getting a loan for a car that depreciates in value.
Good debt versus bad debt.
Good debt versus bad debt, always. Yeah. But what I'm seeing, and I have been really, really closely communicating with clients, is as these equities increase so much over the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen them move where they had a lot of good debt into now a lot of bad debt.
Or stupid debt.
And I've seen a hell of a lot of Mercedes-Benz being purchased lately, again, using equity from their house because the interest rates are a lot cheaper than going out and getting, say, a normal car finance.
Interesting. So let's have a chat about that concept for a while. So what you're saying is that with interest rates, sort of principal and interest, or interest only, ranging from very high 3s to maybe low 5s for interest only stuff, it's cheaper to use that money than using other debt facilities or finance facilities like a car loan or a credit card, where you might be paying 90% on a credit card, or a car loan might be sort of 7s or 8s, right?
Correct.
So people are seeing this increase in equity in their properties. They're going, great, they'll redraw or refinance, but instead of using that money to either go into a new property or leverage into a new property, they'll go and buy a car with it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Everyone feels quite rich because, you look at the house value, it's gone from 700, modest 700, doubled to 1.4 million. The debt hasn't changed. If anything, it has gone up. Interest rates have come down, obviously, during that time, and repayments have come down, and people feel like there's a bit more cash to throw around. They don't feel as much strain or pain as they did prior or just post-GFC. So I've been really trying to communicate with clients that during this time, it's a time to expand. Count the chickens and maybe try and get a couple more. But some people feel the need that because, John down the road went and bought a Mercedes-Benz, they're cheaper than they were, say, 20 years ago, or relatively the same price. Why not use a bit of equity to reward yourself? So there's nothing wrong with that. I always believe there's a bit of balance in lifestyle, but when we start to see some negative numbers just recently in the media, with property prices, especially here in Sydney, coming down, 1.3%, and that's just as a median or as an average. Some areas have come down lower, like for instance Campbelltown. I haven't seen a 5 in front of a sale price for 2-3 years. And now when I do monitor that market quite closely, because I've got properties in that area, I'm starting to see a 5 in front of those purchase prices. So this little bit of decline that comes through, people don't understand that cycle, as it has gone up, it will come down. And loading up your home loan with, say, $100,000 finance for a brand new car.
At the top of the market.
At the top of the market.
When the money's as cheap as it's ever going to be.
Correct. It may not be that way forever. And then when it does come time to maybe refinance their own home, with all these APRA changes that have come in and the serviceability calculators becoming tougher and harder, that's when we start to see a lot of, I suppose, negative things happen to people as the positives have happened in the past.
So this concept of using debt to secure assets which go down in value, I agree with you that people got to, if you can have your cake and eat as well and have a nice lifestyle, if you want a nice car, get a nice car, that's cool. But if things get worse, at least with a property, it's an asset that you can sell, and unless you've got it really wrong, you should be able to sell it for more than what you bought for it. But if you're trying to offload a new Mercedes that costs you $100,000 today, you'll probably try and sell it next year. It might be worth 50 grand or 60 grand, right?
Correct.
It's
Well, it's not just the property itself that goes up in value. You're securing debt against an investment which is returning some form of income.
Absolutely.
A car, unfortunately, while I'd love my Mustang to give me a little bit of return, it unfortunately chews up a bit more petrol than I expected. And if anything, there's a deficiency at the end of the week as a result of driving it. Yeah.
So would you say, we're speaking about you being an accountant now and servicing people, are most people pretty responsible, do you think? Or do you think at the moment people got a bit carried away?
I feel like my existing clients, I think, have been quite responsible. I feel like some newer clients I get, unfortunately, haven't been responsible because maybe some direction that they've received in the past hasn't been great. But I'm hoping that the general public is being quite responsible in this time. But at the same time, we can just be quite, we can just have a very small observation and see the amount of things people are throwing around in terms of expensive holidays, and, the rise of Facebook and Instagram keeps us all in terms of a reality check to see what everyone's doing, and we feel like there's a bit of fear of missing out. So
that whole FOMO thing, and there's a lot of now backlash coming onto it where they're saying that people's reliance on getting sort of dopamine from social media is, the mental health, negative mental health impacts. It can be all consuming of people to try and benchmark themselves against others on social media who, let's be honest, don't really portray their real lives.
Of course.
It's horrible. And if you're one of those people who social media obsessed and you want to share how successful you are or look at people who are really successful, just be careful with it all, because I don't want to bang on about negative around social media, but it's a horrible thing.
Oh, it's got its positives and negatives, but I receive a phone call at least once a week without hesitation from a client saying, how's John getting all this stuff? I know he only earns roughly the same amount of me, but what John's not telling him is that he, maybe increasing equity in terms of increasing the amount of loan that he's got to buy these things. And I just see it all the time, and always tell people, be patient. Don't throw your money away just willy-nilly. There's always got to be a purpose for it. And again, a reward is always a good thing. And, I've rewarded myself, and I do encourage a lot of clients to reward themselves along the way. It's just a way for the motivation to keep being strong. But I think it's a balance. And we'll see over the next, say, 1 or 2 years, as maybe the Sydney market does go down a little bit further, what it does do to the sentiment and the overall consumer sentiment around finances.
How are you putting a budget together for your wedding? Are you
I've
as
got,
an accountant, I imagine that's a bit of a challenge.
I have a fantastic fiance. She has put Excel spreadsheets together, and I have paid all the expenses so far, and we keep things in line with our budget. We have, I would say, splurge a little bit on the wedding, but
cool.
I believe in, if I'm going to do it once, I'm going to do it right.
You've got to do it right.
So we're going to have a lovely wedding and create a lovely memory.
That's cool. I actually never added up how much my wedding cost me. I just didn't worry about it. I just went, it will be whatever it will be. And it was good fun. Right? It's cool,
definitely.
Really cool. So, but that, I guess the base of that is, you got to spend money where it's worthwhile spending, and not everything can be viewed as a investment decision.
Correct.
It's okay to have emotional decisions sometimes, and
Correct.
not always thinking about how money's working for you from giving you a dollar return or a yield, but investment in experiences is a cool thing as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's all about the balance, right?
I agree. Big balances, and I've probably learned that over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, about balance, and that's balance of properties as well, and balance of work, and balance of time, and balance of relationships. So I've actually grown up, I think, a lot in the last year and a half to 2 years to see things from a different perspective, and I feel that as I've grown and learned about a bit more of that balance, and having good mentors like Iannuzzelli and like my father and like other people around me, it's given me actually a lot more.
Yeah.
So by expecting less, and I've actually got more.
So we spoke about a little bit when we got together last time about your dad, who's a senior accountant. He's sort of ex one of the big accounting firms, quite senior in there, and I know he's doing his own thing now. But how much of your financial literacy and discipline and insights into just money in general has been influenced by your old man? Because a fair amount.
Yeah, fair amount. We definitely talk about it, even though I don't live at home and haven't lived at home for quite a while. It's a conversation we always have at least once a week.
Yeah.
I get him to review my budgets and my Excels, and I get him to scrutinise and criticise everything that I do. Not necessarily do I follow everything that he says, but I definitely get his opinion. He's just seen the world many more times over than me. He's close to 60 and been through numerous property cycles and been through 18% interest rates and had investments and has investments and dealt with the big end of world and dealt with the smaller end. So his influence on me, as well as Manzuru, as a person I always go back to many times, has been a huge portion to my success. And having that consistency that they provide me with their experience has been fantastic as well.
And is your dad a property man? Like, is he? Because I know a lot of accountants go, "No, you don't touch property."
He's definitely a property man.
Yeah.
He's also a shares man.
Okay.
He loves anything.
Like big blue chip stuff?
He does some specky stuff.
Yeah.
He does some specky stuff. Again, his motto is only put on it what you're willing to lose in terms of the speculation stuff.
Yeah.
The blue chip stuff is where he's chasing a bit more of the yields. And as of late, with a little bit of the blue chips coming down over the last couple of years, they've been providing him some good yields. So he's a bit of a balanced man. He's definitely not all in on one thing. But at his stage in his life, his property investment, it's much larger. There's got to be a lot of potential for development properties. So he's got a couple properties where it's multiple unit sites, some commercial properties. The Italians always love their commercial properties. And he's in a lot of syndications. So he's got a lot of clients who are property syndicators who deal on the big end of town, and Dad will invest his money with that. And there's some really, really good returns over short periods of time. And again, more money, more profit one can make, more risk one can take as well.
Sure. And what do you think about the growth in your property portfolio? So 18 months since we last got together, from 9 to 15. Do you think you're being ambitious or aggressive, or does he think you should be speeding up?
He's always been a bit more of a balanced person. So he definitely has said to me, Jeremy, Brisbane is something that you maybe put a little bit too much in there. There's about 6 or 7 properties up in Brisbane, and he was probably right. They have slowed down a little bit as a huge amount of investors.
Slowed down in growth.
It's slowed down in growth, yeah. It's a huge amount of investors have went into that southeast region of Brisbane. It just flooded the market with a lot of rental properties. Yields have come down a little bit, believe it or not, from where I once was renting, for 300, 320, that's probably now 300 or 280. So I have seen the yields drop. I have seen a little bit of the growth drop purely because of the supply on the market. So I did diverse into Melbourne and looked around the cheaper areas such as Geelong and the Albions just west of Melbourne CBD. And I've seen some really good growth there. So where I've probably slowed down on the Brizzy stuff, my Melbourne have definitely picked up the slack. And Sydney, I've definitely seen growth in the last 2 years, but probably in the last 6 months, I can definitely say I've seen some stagnation at the same time. especially with the newer properties that I've purchased.
So what sort of stuff have you been buying?
So I've been looking now at a lot of the newer upcoming areas in the Southwest region.
Okay.
So recently, just after we spoke in March...
Southwest Melbourne?
Southwest Sydney.
I'll
go into the Southwest Melbourne stuff as well. So Southwest Sydney, I've really looked at that growth corridor.
So Campbelltown.
But more so looking towards Hoxton Park all the way through to, say, Narellan.
Yep.
There's obviously that corridor along Cannon Valley Way, which is becoming very popular, especially with a lot of home occupiers and younger couples. So I've been looking towards more the Leppington area, which I secured quite a large block. And this was actually going to be my family home. And believe it or not, I bought it in my partner's name before I got engaged to her.
There you go.
And that wasn't the best decision in the sense from the family side of things, because they said, "What are you doing? You're crazy. Putting everything 100% in her name." But
you must know, mate. You can't fight love.
I knew she was the one. I knew she was the one, and I needed the land tax threshold. So we bought it 100% in her name, and obviously engaged not long thereafter. And it was quite a large.
Did you
block.
propose on the block?
No, I proposed in hot air balloon.
Did you?
About probably give or take 0.5 kilometre in the air. So
that's cool.
And I'm terrified of heights, so I overcome it and got on one knee.
How do you work out the budget to? Isn't there some very complicated algorithmic formula of what you're supposed to spend on the engagement ring? I can never work it out.
Yeah, well, during that stage I was lucky, and I probably did it the right time because I wasn't made a partner until July, and I got engaged in February.
Well, there you go. So, is that the excuse?
It was always an excuse, but no, I bought her the ring she wanted and the ring that I thought she dreamt of, and it was lovely.
That's cool.
But yeah, we bought a 676 square metre block in June of 2016, registered in July of 2017.
Okay.
We paid about $476 for it, 676 square metres, which was one of the larger blocks in the Denham Court, Willowdale region.
I know Denham Court.
Yeah, and I've known that area for a long time.
That's up on the hill, right?
Yeah,
back on Campbelltown. That's quite really nice.
And just
some pretty fancy joints up there.
Yeah, around the corner you've got multi-million-dollar homes sitting on 2 or 3 acre lots.
Yeah.
Probably one road there, Denham Court Road. Every house would be worth anywhere between $2 and upwards of $5 or $6 million. So
nice vistas from up there.
Yeah, beautiful views, and it's just a lovely culture there as well. But it was supposed to be our dream mansion, with the white lines at the front, the typical Italian things. But I found out through doing a bit of research I could build a duplex.
Okay.
So once I found out that, I had to do it to maximise the land value. And we're going through the process of the build as we speak.
Are you going to live in one of them?
The idea is to live in one of them,
okay.
which will be fantastic, because if we can get about $550, $600 a week rent on the other side, it virtually pays our mortgage. So
that's pretty good.
We're living, I would say mortgage free.
That's
and
cool.
We've done it in a way where I've put a bit of cash in and allocated that cash to one side, so our owner-occupied debt is as low as possibly can, and our investment debt is where it should be.
Okay. That's an interesting way to frame it. So when will you construct?
It's construction, going through the construction.
Okay, underway. So when do you
should be finished, I would say, by June of next year.
Okay, and because it's a new build, you get all the depreciation benefits associated with it.
On one half.
On one half, which is the investment side, not on the one that you live in. So do you think you'll stick around there?
The goal was we're supposed to build our dream home, and I think that is still part of our goal. So I think it might be while there's no kids and relatively fresh into the marriage.
A good interim step.
Yeah, it'd be 3 or 4 years at most. Her mother's around the corner, which is good, and my family's not too far away, so it's kind of central. But the goal will be to have our own home, whether we build or buy pre-existing. But I'm really looking forward to a couple more negative numbers in the Sydney market, because it might be an opportunity for us to jump into a home that we love, and maybe at a reduced price where it is today.
Yeah, and you'll buy in that area around?
I think we'll buy around that area, just to be close and centralised to the family.
That's cool. So where'd you get the money from to pay for the block of land, and what did you finance the land at, and then how are you going about sort of building the property? Obviously construction loans, so talk us through that. Yeah,
so we spoke in March, and I said my goal was to utilise the equity that I've built up over those years to buy my own home. And we went in with the land being at about $476. The overall loan on it at the moment is $150.
Okay.
So you
put a big chunk in.
We put a big chunk, and that big chunk came from a lot of my equity.
Okay. So did you sell anything, or you just drew down the equity?
No, I drew down. I drew down. And
so you increased the debt on everything
I increased the debt, and unfortunately that debt, a portion of it will be non-deductible. But It was just a decision.
Why is it not because it's your family
Because
home?
it's, I've used it not for investing purposes, I've used it for personal purposes. So similar to that of buying a car, for instance. So I do realise a portion of it will be non-deductible. And then I've obviously saved quite hard and used a portion of my own savings as well as Sinead's savings as well.
Yeah.
So that was a way of us trying to reduce as much of the debt as we possibly can. Although I've still got some non-deductible debt, unfortunately, which I'm paying interest on, which I can't claim the interest on it. But so is such is life.
It's not a huge amount, though.
Yeah, not a big amount. Not a big amount. Just enough to bring down the loan enough on the land, so I don't have to put any contribution towards the construction loan.
Okay, and the construction loan is 100%. Is it?
The construction loan will be 100% for the time being.
Yep. And did you just go through a standard lender with that? Or
standard
someone?
lender,
Yeah. Okay.
Standard lender, CBA, and both the numbers combined warranted us to get principal and interest and be able to be assessed at a owner-occupier rate as well.
So you get P&I, so one loan for the construction across both properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Across the duplex
Across
itself.
the duplex, yeah. So you can't split it and have it on separate titles. It's just one title.
Yeah, I'm not looking to torrents title it.
Okay.
Because if I torrents title it now, I'm paying 2 lots of council rates.
Yeah.
And so I'm still got the accounting brain thinking. I'll leave it as just one lot for the time being, as one property. And then if I'm ready to sell later on down the track, I might torrents title it.
And you've checked out the local council regulations around it, and you can split it.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So I've got the builder to do everything as if it's going to be torrents title, but not obviously action that until a day we want to sell it, if we want to sell them individually. But I think that's what we wanted. We wanted to have a duplex. I've always wanted one, and it was just good to go through the build process. And the rent combined should be, in between $1,200 and $1,350, $1,400.
Okay. It's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, not bad.
So is this going to stop you investing for a while?
Definitely, yes,
Yeah,
it has.
yeah.
It has. There's no doubt about it. So that's kind of been the last property that I've in my mind that we'll do in terms of when the build's been finished.
Yeah.
I will try to go back to the existing portfolio and see things that I can improve on. So if I talk about now Southwest
In
Melbourne,
terms of capital value or more
capital value,
yield play?
Yield play, capital value, as well as subdivision. So the last purchases that I've bought in that year and a half since we've last spoke have been blocks where I can subdivide, corner blocks where I can subdivide as well. So I'll try to go back to that portfolio and regenerate it or rejuvenate it. And hopefully that might give me a little bit more equity, might give me a little bit more serviceability with additional rental income. But if it doesn't happen, I know it's something along the line that will happen. But I've been just doing a lot in between while I haven't been able to service any more debt, a lot of options.
Okay.
So optioning properties.
So talk us through that. What is that?
So optioning properties is essentially a right, not obligation. We'll go through the definition. What I'm saying to a vendor, and we'll make it nice, short and sweet, is that I'm saying I will buy your property for, let's say for instance, $800,000. I give them an option fee of say maybe $10,000, and I say I want it 6 months. In that time, in 6 months, I'm going to try and sell your property to somebody else for a higher price. So I've known this young gentleman for quite a while, and we've been speaking about this for years. We finally got it over the line about a year ago, and we've been doing one every couple months. We found a developer who said, you know what, boys, you find me a site that I can do a duplex or a triplex on. Make sure it's a fair price, obviously, and I'll pay. So he's been door knocking. I've been putting feasibilities together to make sure the numbers work. Generally, we give ourselves about 6 months. We found that vendors don't want to be locked in any longer than that. We've tried 12 and 18 months, but they just say no. But 6 months, within that 6 months, we do a feasibility. We may do the DA, pay for the DA, and then call up this builder that we know, the developer, and he says, not a problem, I'll pay that price, and we may walk out with, say, $50,000 after all expenses.
So easy sums. So $500,000 for the house.
Yep.
You guys do the heavy lifting. So to get a DA, so development approval, to say that, yes, you can build 3 properties on it, and you might go as far as actually getting the plans drawn up and all this sort of stuff.
Yep.
And then you would sell that to the developer for
a premium.
600, say, for example.
Let's say 700. So it might cost us $100,000 in architectural drawings and
all
development approvals and fees and council contributions. But what we've done is we've packaged up a property for him where he can start a build.
So he can do what he's good at, and that is building stuff, rather than having to acquire the asset, take all the risk on to go through the DA process and all associated costs, and potentially not be able to do anything with it. So the vendor gets what, 10 grand or so for the sake of doing it, or
yeah. So what happens is we normally pay a little bit more than what the market says. So for instance, we'll just use 500 as an example. the market says that it's worth 500, we've got to make it sweet. That $10,000 option fee is generally non-refundable. So after 6 months, if we can't find someone to buy his property,
you pay him 10 anyway.
He keeps his house and gets $10,000. So why not? But we'll generally pay a little bit more than what market says as the house itself. Where we add the value is through the development approval. Where we add the value is maybe through being able to do a subdivision while they're still living in the property.
So you take on all the risk associated with any fees to create a package that is going to be attractive to a developer.
Correct. And it doesn't always have to be that way. There's different arrangements, but we've gone ahead and done it that way because we felt it's fair and it's viable for a vendor and potentially for a builder as well.
So do you just concentrate on one particular area because to try and be knowledgeable of all the different local council acts in relation to development, subdevelopment, splitting blocks or whatever? Like, are you concentrating on one particular
we've
zone?
got about 5 areas we concentrate on and no more. So we've sat down and we've done a lot of brainstorming nights, brought out LEPs, so land and environmental plan, looked at council websites and obviously state government, they release their plans as well. So we've brought it down to 5 areas. So we look towards the Campbelltown and Austral district. We look at Blacktown. Blacktown's been our piggy bank lately.
Really? Blacktown?
Blacktown's been very good for us. Seven Hills, Toongabbie, that whole corridor along the Great Western Highway.
I might have to chat with you about an idea. I've got something in Seven Hills, but anyway.
Mate, Seven Hills is definitely, there's big blocks there.
Well, it is. That's where I grew up, so my mum's still got an asset out there.
A lot of R4 zonings in Seven Hills, and you can build upwards, depending on the land size, upwards of 15, 18, 20, 30 metres, which is good, depending on the lot sizes. We've done a little bit in Queensland, splitter blocks, very easy stuff on the northern side of Brisbane. So that's been pretty good to us. Melbourne at the moment, I've just personally done my own stuff in Melbourne, but there's huge amounts of opportunities in Melbourne, huge amounts. It's just a matter of getting your feet on the ground.
So when you get paid, so you've had a few paydays, so which is cool. Do you just count that as just income, like from conducting business? I guess
we treat it purely as a business. So both of us, both myself and this other gentleman, younger guy as well, we can't borrow. The banks have just said, Jeremy, we tap you out. Wait till your income grows, and obviously moving into the partnership, I require at least 12 months worth of trading minimum to start showing the banks that I'm healthy again and that I can start borrowing. But for me, it was just, I can't just sit on my hands and wait for things to happen. I've learned, spent time, I've a lot of long nights, and I'm going to use the knowledge, the intellectual property that I've gained over the research of the couple of years.
So it's not for the faint-hearted what you're doing?
Look, to be very honest, anyone can do it. If you're prepared to put in the time and understand, councils, state government, LEPs, if you understand all that contours, you find the right developer. The builders at the moment are crying for sites. They are crying for sites. Smaller stuff, I don't deal with.
I thought it was the other way around, where it's impossible to get something built these days because every builder's too busy.
Yeah, the builders are busy. Builders are busy, but there's a lot of builders out there who are doing stuff for themselves as well. And this is they might do the frames Monday to Friday, and on the side they might have 1 or 2 properties being built at the same time. So I feel it's what I've felt with the guys I deal with is they're crying for sites. It's just they're so time poor because they're building so many things, they actually haven't got the time to go out there and package the sites. So they're happy to give us a little bit on top as a premium for our time, for our effort, for our knowledge, so they can walk in and... So
you're putting all the sweat equity into preparing these things for just so they can rock up one day and just start building something, right?
Correct.
Got the plans, got all the approvals.
Council contributions are being paid, the DA's in our hand, and it's a matter of passing that on the sale to the builder, and he's right to go straight away as long as his finances are obviously ready.
It all sounds very glamorous doing that. It's cool. But, my comment around not for the faint-hearted, you say it's easy, but it's pretty bloody hard, right? To actually understand how to go about doing this. So I wouldn't be recommending people to rush into. No,
I wouldn't recommend to run into it. No, I wouldn't run. There's a lot of time.
You're an accountant for a living, right?
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of time I've spent. I'm not going to lie. I've spent a lot of time, but it's one of those things. It's like riding a bike. Once you've done it once, twice, 3 times, you actually kind of look at the property and say,
cutter, right?
"Yep, I know that can do that." It's just a matter now of getting the price right.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's
as you said, you've been tapped out by the banks in terms of serviceability, and that will change in the future, and it will change because hopefully you'll make more money because you're a partner now, and you're also generating income doing what you're doing. That said, also markets change, regulations change, banks' appetite toward lending changes, and at the moment they're servicing it 7+% in terms of
P&I. It's nasty.
P&I, it's nasty.
So it was either do the options, Phil, or invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
and I just unfortunately I haven't got the heart to invest in Bitcoin. I actually find optioning less riskier
than Bitcoin.
Than Bitcoin. So
don't start me on Bitcoin. It's so much noise around Bitcoin at the moment.
Mate,
it's absolute mad.
Again, I get phone calls every day about Bitcoin, and when I try to explain to people that it's very emotional in the sense of it's just a digital currency which exists on a platform, and there's nothing backing it in the sense it's not like it's a share in a business which generates revenue and provides jobs. It's more just you and I saying, yeah, I want it, and I'm happy to pay whatever I want to pay for it. So it's definitely a funny thing, and I get a lot of people to research a thing called tulip mania. And once they read that a little bit, they either well equipped to invest in Bitcoin and understand when to get in, when to get out, or
tulip
get out.
Mania, I've read about that. That's
Yeah.
sort of like
it's tulips. People buying tulips.
Prices, yeah.
Tulip prices
in Holland, right?
It went 6,000%, and everybody wanted to buy tulips. And then as quick as that 6-month or 12-month period went, it crashed down, and tulips came back to their price of probably 50 cents a stem. So, yeah.
Madness. So we haven't seen you for a year and a half, Jeremy. I've obviously caught up with you in the interim and sort of keep an eye on what you're up to. So that's 18 months ago. So 18 months into the future, you'll be happily married?
Yep.
What else is going to be happening?
Mate, April, happily married.
Yeah.
I'll obviously get the permission from the missus to start using her income.
Oh, there we go.
So there's always...
Is this the rationale behind marriage, is it?
It's...
for better, for worse, for PAY income statements?
Yeah, I tell my friends that to be cool, but I really do love her, so it's a good thing. But no, I'll start to utilise her income.
Does she get what you do?
She understands it on a level. She's not as much into it as I am.
Does she care that much? Do you think she'll want to learn more about it? Do you think she'll just be like, go and do it?
I think she trusts me enough just to
That's a good thing,
do it,
mate.
which is
married,
good. So she trusts me enough just to say, Jeremy, this is something you love doing. Go ahead, go nuts.
Yeah.
I run through things with her. She says she understands, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And we go from there. So, there's lots of cool things. There's land tax thresholds that I get under her name, and serviceability, and being able to use her, maybe some negative gearing benefit from her income, because being a seller.
Did you get the first home buyers grant? We get a portion of it, maybe.
We didn't. No, we didn't. Unfortunately, the price that we purchased at was above that 450 at that stage, so we couldn't. And she actually bought a property with her mother.
Okay, so
she couldn't get into
doesn't
that.
Qualify. Fair enough. So. A few more properties then?
Yep.
Anything else? What else going on?
Well, properties-wise, so I'll talk about a little bit more of the Melbourne area. So I saw Brisbane starting to get very heavily influxed with investors. A couple of my properties took a bit more than 2 weeks that I was used to get rented. It took longer. And talking to a couple people, talking to a couple agents, and I just started to see that there was a southeast region, especially just huge amounts of development, investors. I started to look at the northern parts of Brisbane, so anything north of say Nunda, looking at Deception Bay, Redcliffe, Petrie Basin, the Moreton Bay area, obviously all those areas, and started to really heavily focus on them. But the prices, I wish I bought a year ago, mind you. The prices have gone up quite a bit, but I just felt that it was a little bit too much for me to get in, a little bit too much. And in hindsight is painful. I won't use the other word that I was going to use, but painful to see where they were, where I could have bought to where they are now. So I made a decision to go buy in that southwestern part of Melbourne, towards Geelong. So I took a drive down there, took a plane, then took a drive through the streets, and realised quite quickly it was a bit of a Mount Druitt by the water. Yeah. But I saw potential in it. I saw larger blocks. So
Mount Druitt by the water being an investor's eye towards potential for growth.
Yeah, lots.
The gentrification is not the word, but the fundamental dynamics that we saw in Mount Druitt and St Mary's and your Whalen, your Bidwell sort of 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, blue collar workers. And to be humble and not to be not to be mean or anything like that.
But I know you grew up in Cashula, mate. So
I'm a southwestern suburbs boy, so I lived in a blue collar work area, but everyone worked. It's a lower socioeconomic area in the sense that probably the average income would be anywhere between 50 to 60, 70 grand a year. Family wise, there's a mixture of old and mixture of young. But what I saw was we were going through a housing affordability crisis. 2 years ago, on every single newspaper and every single media article I read, it was all about housing affordability crises. How do young people get into the market? There's nothing affordable. But I went down there, I took the drive down the freeway, 45 minutes it took me from Melbourne CBD, which was fantastic. I drive from, Campbelltown to Parramatta every day, and it's an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back.
An hour and a half, is it?
Hour and a half, mate. It's as I've seen more development in Liverpool, just to go through that stretch.
Like through Smithfield?
Yeah, through Hume Highway and then Woodville Road. But I've just seen with all the development, all the units, more people, more cars. So it was good to get down to Melbourne and be on a 4-lane freeway and be there in 40 minutes.
Mate, so many speed cameras on that freeway.
There is, and there's no signs either. So I'm lucky I was going 90 k's the whole way. But I saw a lot of potential there. Big blocks, ex-housing commission homes, built all the way to the front, huge backyards, all the way to the left-hand side of the property. Researched a lot on the council. They call it their growth zone. And I was like, wow. The things that you can do on a 600-700 square metre block there, you could only dream about in Sydney.
So that's within the Geelong Council area,
Correct.
isn't it? 'Cause I, as well as property stuff, I work quite a lot across the defence space, and I was down at the Avalon Air Show early this year, and I spent a lot of time with sort of Geelong development people, and they're obviously trying to attract a lot of defence business into Geelong. They've got an airport and stuff down there in Avalon, but it's a pretty proactive council. They are open for, they've got the right mindset open for expansion because, as you rightly point out, it's close to the city. You can commute from Geelong quite easily without a lot of the headaches of an M2 or an M5 here in Sydney. And their openness towards development and being, I guess, development friendly or development inclined is very good.
It was very relaxed, very relaxed. I found a great town planner down there as well. The gentleman, and I'll put his name out there, is a good guy, Robert Pasqualini, and he's definitely helped me quite a bit. So that's a gentleman who I spoke to prior to buying these properties. He let me and filled me in on all the knowledge he had about that council, that area, that property, what you could do. And I kind of went in buying these things.
So you pay him for that advice?
Well, I was lucky enough to give him my word that I would go through him to get all the approvals being done. So that's where he got his fee. And I went through with that, and he's been a big guidance in my portfolio, especially down there, and he's a good man, and it really gave me a lot of insight. I learnt a lot from him as well, so used him as a bit of a mentor and his knowledge.
That's cool.
And everything I bought down there has potential to build a house at the back. I've got a corner block there, 650 square metres, with a house right at the front. The block behind me has already built 2 houses on their block, but I upset that they built that, mind you, because they could have done a lot more. But I can actually build 3 on mine.
Good.
So the idea at the moment is to keep them there, get through this duplex that I'm building here in Sydney, and then build there, and hopefully get the rewards of the rental income.
So let's get you back in then. Let's not leave it 18 months. Let's do another year, see how you're getting on.
Yeah. Definitely.
Post-marriage, post-honeymoon?
Yeah, we moved into a home by then, and honeymoon. And
where are you going for a honeymoon?
We're doing a very small trip to the Hamilton Island just after we get married, to kind of relax. She's done a lot of hard work, so it's more for her. And then do a Europe trip. She's a school teacher, so that trip, that time off in December school holidays, we'll do a bit of a Europe trip. So
is she primary school?
Primary school teacher, yeah.
She's
cool. An assistant principal there at primary school. So she's a high achiever herself, on a good income, and it's going to be a huge advantage to us, especially later on as the property portfolio grows.
Sweet, mate. I'm really happy for you. It's good to hear it's tracking the right way.
It is. Everything's doing really well.
I'll keep an eye. I'll see what you're up to, and
I'm sure
I've got my people out there that always give me reports on you, as you know. So,
I'm sure you will.
It's good, but mate, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Really enjoy it, mate, and this big car of yours, that's mad.
It's definitely something that it's definitely a novelty with all the friends.
How many k's you get out of a tank on it? If you got your foot down?
Well, I've had it for just under a year now. It's only got about 4,000 kilometres on it, but I'd be lucky to maybe get 400 kilometres out of a tank. I just recently done a trip. I took a bunch of children from Campbellfield Public School, which is a special needs or autistic school, and took it to their formal. So I definitely wasted about probably 20 litres driving 15 kilometres that day.
Is it still the currency? And I've spoken about the show. I went to school out in Seven Hills, Blacktown area.
Yeah.
And you had to turn up in a really cool car and hack the biggest burnout possible when you get dropped out for your funeral. Does that still happen?
Mate,
I'm sure you
there
weren't
was
doing
a
it.
hell of a lot of noise that day. I went in a bit of a motorcade with some other Mustang owners from the group, and we definitely gave these kids a memory,
fun.
a Year 6 memory for their farewell, but I definitely won't go on public on the show and say there was any smoking rubber.
Anyway, that's not about property investment. That's just about stuff. All right. Thanks, mate. Really
Beautiful.
enjoy it. Yeah, cool. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. And if you want to listen to the first podcast we did with Jeremy back in March 2016, go and track it down. And it was a good chat then. And like today, interesting. It's good to see young people, and you're younger than me, so I'll call you young, doing good stuff. If you're not subscribing to our morning market intelligence, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. If you've got any questions for me or for Jeremy, email the team, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, and we will get back to you. If you'd like to get your stuff from social media, I know I was speaking about the ills of social media beforehand, but if that's how you like to get your information, search any of the social platforms for Smart Property HQ. You'll track us down, like us, follow us, and please keep those reviews coming on iTunes. We do appreciate them. Just hit 5 stars, and if you'd like to leave a review, please do, because the team really do enjoy the feedback that we get. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.